I watched a video recently. This isn't really a response to it, but I was just interested in the video, and it was on John Kohler's OK Raw YouTube channel. And John Kohler's a guy that's given me some support in the past with the UK festival, so I've got nothing. In fact, I might be wearing. No, I'm not wearing his t-shirt today, but I've got one of his t-shirts. A lot of respect for John as a long-term vegan, a long-term raw foodist. So he was interviewing Joel Fuhrman. So got nothing against John, and nothing against Joel Fuhrman. In fact, if anything, John's. I've learned a lot from him, and he's helped promote the event a little bit. So got a lot of good feeling towards him. And Joel Fuhrman, I don't really know much about, but I know he was in the natural hygiene movement years ago. I think he used to talk more about raw food, and now he kind of does this nutritarian diet. So John Kohler was interviewing him and talking about his program, his dietary philosophy. So the first thing that strikes me about Joel Fuhrman's diet, the nutritarian diet, is, and Joel Fuhrman firstly is one of these believers in the idea that some foods are best raw. So he really thinks people need to be eating raw greens every day for the healthy benefits of those. But some foods are best eaten, there's benefits from actually cooking those foods, there's benefits from them. So that's kind of his, he's not 100% raw foodist. I don't think he believes in that particularly. But the first thing that struck me about when I look at his work or his information is that he recommends people eat 30 to 60% of their calories from vegetables. And the vegetables he's recommending are the most nutrient dense ones, by which he has a chart of the healthiest foods, and his definition of the healthiest foods are, well, firstly it's about the foods that are going to help you achieve the longevity. So his whole thing is longevity. He wants people to be able to live the longest. So there's certain foods that have huge anti-cancer benefits, anti-disease benefits, and seem to benefit longevity. So he's kind of studying that and interested in that, which I think is a very good thing to study. However, his chart of the healthiest foods is, he takes the amount of nutrition in them or something, or the amount of minerals and nutrition, and then weighs that up against the calories in the food. So then the highest scoring food are the foods with the lowest calories, but the most like minerals and nutrition and vitamins and things like that. And what happens there is that the highest foods are things like kale. So kale is like the highest food on his index as the healthiest food for people. It's very low in calories but very high in all these nutrients. And the other foods that are the highest, healthiest are greens. So you're looking at, and then and he's talking about the other vegetables as well, being because all the vegetables are very low in calories. So these are the healthiest foods in his opinion. But then if you look into fruits, because fruits are higher in calories, they're much lower in that scale. And the higher the calories, the lower they are down in that scale. So this doesn't really seem to work out, this scale, because all of a sudden you're skewing all these foods because they're low in caloric value. To me, if a food is low in calories, that implies that doesn't make it good or bad. Maybe in the longevity, if pure longevity is about eating less calories, then maybe that is the case. But the studies on longevity have been done on other animals, and I'm not sure how much that converts to humans, and I'm not sure how much that converts to humans eating a standard diet. Of course, if you're eating a standard diet, eating less calories is going to help you live longer, because that diet leads to disease. But I don't think it's clear if you take people on a raw vegan diet and they eat more than another person. I don't think it's very clear about whether there's longevity benefits to that, although some people would say there is. So he's got his nutrition scale, his index, that shows the vegetables, and specifically the green leafy vegetables are the highest on his scale. The fruits are lower down. Even berries and things like that are much lower down because they have higher calories. I don't think that's the best way to scale if a food is the best food for you or the healthiest food, simply because you're immediately saying that calories are bad or something. But we need to get calories. Surely the best foods are the foods that can supply everything to you. So if you've got a food like kale, you have to have a calorie source at the same time as eating kale. So, well, most people who eat a lot of kale and stuff, they have a calorie source which is cooked, like complex carbohydrates, or it's animal products. So you're immediately valuing these foods that don't supply calories for a person. Therefore, the person has to get calories, and generally those calories are going to come from cooked carbohydrates or other animal products. Whereas if you eat enough fruit, you don't need any other source of calories. So kale would seem to be deficient to me as a food because it makes you have to eat other things that are much lower down on this calorie scale than fruit. So surely fruit is much better than kale. That's kind of the way I would look at it, I think. What was amazing about the interview with Joel Fuhrman, I don't think Joel Fuhrman talked about fruit at all in the entire interview, despite the fact that it's one of the decisions of the Global Burden of Disease study last year, which I'm sure he's well aware of, that in the standard American diet and in the American diet, that not eating enough fruit is the biggest risk factor. The absolute biggest risk factor in terms of longevity, disease, illness, was not eating enough fruit. So I don't know why he's not mentioning fruit more or pushing fruit more. He certainly didn't seem to talk about fruit that much. And I know that John Kohler is a guy that, from my experience, obviously he's been at the Woodstock Fruit Festival, but he recommends a lot of fruit in the diet, if you're doing a raw food diet anyway. But the nutritarian diet as well, it's one of these things again. He mentions the benefits of nuts and seeds. He mentions the benefits of cooked mushrooms, certain beans. He mentions all these benefits and didn't talk about fruit, didn't talk about raw fruit at all. It was weird. To me it's weird because in anyone's diet, I'm telling you, there's a lot of people eating a lot of beans. You know, there's people that go to like Taco Bell or whatever, they're eating beans. There's people that eat baked beans. The population out there does not really need a message of eat more beans. Now, fair enough, people probably don't eat enough vegetables, but people are eating vegetables, they're eating something. There's a lot of vegetables being eaten out there. Mushrooms, once again, there's a lot of mushrooms being eaten. The regular society is not. I know there's a lot of people who don't like mushrooms, but nuts. People are eating tons of nuts. I mean, I understand probably not the best to have them in a packet with salt, but is that really the place to? Is this really the thing? Is it really the big problem in people's diet that they're not eating enough nuts? Are people not eating enough nuts? Because you give someone a bag of nuts, they're eating all the nuts. They're going to eat all the nuts. I think there's a lot of nuts being eaten. I think there's a lot of beans being eaten, but people aren't eating enough fruit. That's the biggest problem in people's diet. So trying to push vegetables and all these other things is fine, but in reality, a lot of people are eating these things. They're not getting the benefit of them because they're obviously eating a lot of animal products at the same time and other things, but they need to replace those calories, and they need to replace those calories with the healthiest thing possible, which will be fruit calories. Joel Fuhrman believes you can get 30 to 60% of your calories from vegetables. I think that's going to be a struggle for any person. I think it's a struggle for a person that's been on a raw diet a long time, who's eating huge amounts of vegetables every day. I think it's a struggle if you're doing green smoothies or juices or anything. People do juice fasts and they struggle to get like 1800 calories, and that's juiced vegetables. They struggle to get 1500 calories. I mean, that's a huge amount of juice. So I do not know how people are getting 30 to 60% of their calories from kale, broccoli, lettuce. I don't get that at all. Carrots. I just don't see how that's being done. That's a huge amount of vegetables, so I've got a problem there. He actually still allows like animal products. I think that's a bad decision, but maybe he finds that people don't want to say no to animal products. But he still allows these things on his nutrition thing, and you know, a small amount. But the truth is, no one's going to eat a small amount. You cannot, if you want people to eat healthy, you cannot say to them a very small amount of animal products is okay, because no one's going to eat a small amount. You know, if 0 is better than the truth is, if 1% is better than 0%, you should still go for 0, because no one's going to do 1%. People are going to eat a ton of animal products if you say that it's okay to. So I think he's kind of wrong in the way he promotes his diet. I don't know why he promotes the benefits of beans and mushrooms and things like that. People are eating plenty of these things. There's plenty of products with beans in them. There's plenty of nuts out there. You go to the airport, you go into an aeroplane, you can get a bag of nuts if you like. Try and get a bowl of fruit. It's going to be harder. You can still do it, but there's just not going to be a lot of options. So my whole belief system when it comes to promoting health is that people need to be promoted to the idea that fruit is the healthiest food, and that fruit is the food that you have to eat more of. And all these people that are naysayers of fruit, that they don't want to tell people about fruit, they can't be bothered creating the argument or making the argument about fruit. I think they're doing a disservice to people. I think Joel Fuhrman is smart enough in this, in the industry that he's in, to understand that fruit is the way to go. He has a history in the raw vegan movement and the natural hygiene movement. There's no way that he doesn't know about that. So why he promotes vegetables to make 30 to 60% of the calories of your diet, when he knows that that's just impossible, even for someone totally committed to that? Unless you're talking about vegetables being like sweet potatoes and potatoes, in which case you've got much more of a chance. But the problem with promoting starches, the same thing I talked about earlier on, different way, but you start promoting starches to people, and potatoes and sweet potatoes, and almost always, like the potato cleanse, potato diet, whatever, starch solution, they bake the starches, they put it on a plate, they go to eat it, and they maybe enjoy it one time, and then they have another plate next day. Eventually they add a sauce, eventually they add a bit more to the sauce, eventually the sauce isn't enough, so they want to add some fat to the sauce, and then they want to add some salt to the sauce, and then they want to add some spice to the sauce, and all of a sudden they're eating potatoes or rice with like this oily, greasy, fat sauce with tahini in it and oil and, and all this stuff, and they start to gain weight because they're getting all the calories from the starches, but they're adding all this oil. And this is the problem with like the raw till 4 diet, the starch solution. If you did it 100% what they describe, then people would do it. But when people move towards cooked food, even as a supplement of a raw food diet to supplement your calories, they just start going to restaurants and they start adding sauces from, they don't want to make their own sauce, so they go and get a sauce, and the sauce has oil in it, but they don't realise that, and the other stuff they're eating's got oil in it, and it's got extra added fat, and they're no longer eating a low-fat diet, and they're eating these huge meals in the restaurant, all this oily vegan food, and they think this is the same thing as eating a healthy diet, and they put on massive amounts of weight, and even if they only do it once or twice a week or 3 times a week, that's enough, you know. That's enough for you to start putting on a lot of weight. Going to the restaurant a couple of times a week. All these people go to Chiang Mai, Thailand, and places like that, and there's all this fruit there, but they want to go to the restaurants at night. And what's served at restaurants? Greasy, oily food with lots of empty calories from oil. And if you're not a really high level endurance athlete who's able to go out and train so much that you're at a calorie deficit for a number of days in a row, you're going to start putting on a lot of weight from that restaurant food. And from that, like, oh, I'll just every now and then I have a bit of oil, or every now and then I add a little bit of oil, or a little bit. It's like they're telling you no oil. So the starch, people that promote the starch-based diet, they tell people no oil, no fat, and people can't help themselves. They still go back to the oil and the fat, the various forms of fat. So I really think the answer is fruit. Promote fruit. Tell people they need to eat more fruit. Just focus on the fruit. Fruit for breakfast, fruit for lunch, fruit for dinner, fruit for snacks. And this is the perfect food. This should always be seen as the top food. There shouldn't be any kale or anything else that comes higher. So I don't know about John Kohler, if he's going towards a nutritarian diet, if he's cooking his food more now. I'm confused about that. I'd be happy to hear more from him about that. I think maybe he's done a lot more research than me into the raw vegan diet, and he's got a lot more experience. But I'm really focused on the fruit and continuing on that path. And if anything changes, I'll be happy to let you know about that. But at the moment, I'm at the Fresh Food Festival in Denmark. We're all eating fruit. We're promoting fruit. And yeah, there's only a small amount of people here, but it's a nice thing for us all to get together. So let me know on your thoughts of the video. If you've seen it, it's on the OK Raw channel, which is a great channel, and John's got a lot of great information, and Joel Fuhrman has also got a lot of great information. I just don't know how people are going to get that amount of calories from their vegetables, and they might end up under eating, and a lot of things might happen. Who knows? But thanks a lot for watching. I know it's a long video. No drama, just curiosity, just adding my own voice to the debate, to the information out there, and happy to hear what you have to say about it. So leave your comments and suggestions below. If you want to learn about raw vegan diet, there's the Fruit Festival we have in the UK, fruitfest.co.uk, you can check that out. And you can get a free book from me at a link below, hopefully. So, thank you.